Welcome, everyone, to the Artist Unframed podcast. This is actually our first episode, and we're excited that you're here with us. I am one of your co hosts, Aaron Ross, and we will be hearing more from Bernice Miller, our other co host, in this episode. But we wanted to give you a sense of what this podcast is about. And this podcast is really hoping to broaden the conversation surrounding artists and artistic life. So for me, I attended a film school, University of North Carolina School of the Arts. I also work there as a faculty member now. And so I've been put in a unique position to really think about the developing artist and what concepts are really important to broaden a young developing artist's mind when they think about their own artistic life, to think beyond their career, beyond craft, beyond creative process, to remember that they're human, that they have a life, that they have relationships, that there's an entire world beyond just developing their artistic craft. And so the hope is in these conversations that each one is more of a self-discovery into the humanity of artists beyond just what they produce, the accolades and their careers and their stories. I think artists can really get reduced down to the product they create and kind of the benchmarks that they hit in their career. And I think we lose a lot when we do that. I think it creates misperceptions and mythologies around artists that are not only wrong, but they're also dangerous. And so these conversations are really working to push beyond just that standard narrative when it comes to artists. And so today we've got Bernice with us. Bernice and I were writing partners at School of the Arts, and
2 decades ago.
yeah, I know. I don't like to say that. I know, like every time I have to say, like, oh, I graduated in 2014. I'm like, that was 10 years ago. That's awful. But Bernice and I actually connected because we were older students. So we were in an undergrad program with kids that had just graduated from high school, and we're in our late 20s.
At least, yeah.
Yeah. And so just immediately we were able to see a group of older students, and we were just like, oh, hey, like you're not 818. Like, let's hang out. Like, who are you?
It was pretty interesting too because wasn't just the two of us. There were like
Yeah.
five.
Yeah,
There
there
was
were
like
like five
five
of us.
older people
Yeah.
starting their undergraduate career for the first time.
Yeah.
And all these, 18, 19-year-old kids fresh out of high school.
And it's funny too, because for us, it was like we had already lived like that first step in our journey of like we tried something.
I've had like 4 different lifetimes by
I know.
then, you know what I
I
mean?
know.
Like,
Seriously, it's like, because for me, that was such a like, it was a pivot moment. It was me going, well, I tried this one thing. It didn't quite work out the way that I wanted to. Let's hopes and dreams this like film thing.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's funny.
I know. I just, it's funny. I didn't think about that like we all had like a similar story of this was like, chapter 2 for us.
Right. Or
So
3.
yeah, or 3. That's funny. Well, so let's think back to like earlier in your life. So for you, was there a specific moment or even a specific feeling that you had that kind of led you down the path of like, okay, I want to engage in artistic activities, or you had that first thought of like artistic life?
I guess, what do you mean by
Like,
artistic life?
yeah, I know. Like, and it's funny. It's like I'm trying to like coin that phrase more when we talk about artists. But for me, like, kind of some of the staples that people have is like their mom was an artist, and they would watch them do their thing, and that's what started it. Or their parents would like make them write, and like that's where it started. Or they saw, I don't, this sounds really stupid, but like they saw like Bob Ross on TV, like, like, I don't know. But like, yeah, like what was that kind of that first like moment for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's initial definition of an artist or visualization of an artist in their head is
Yeah,
like one who
it's true.
like draws or like,
Yeah,
paints and
yeah,
like you think about those types of
yeah.
people.
They either play music,
Right.
paint,
Yeah.
write.
Then it kind of graduates to like, musicians and things
Yeah,
like that. And then after that, it's kind of like filmmakers.
that is kind of true though. Like for kids though, like
Right.
visual
Yeah.
artist is
Yeah. It's
like,
like, oh, you're an artist. You're a
yeah,
painter. No.
yeah.
Okay. You're a musician. Oh,
And it's true. Like in
yeah.
education, most of the time they're teaching you visual art.
So I guess, now being older, knowing what an artist is, and the
Or
very
what an artist can be.
right, or the very broad,
Yeah,
yeah, view of an artist, like, a writer,
yeah,
is an artist. But I didn't think of myself, I think, as an artist
yeah,
back then. But I love
yeah,
to write. Like I was
yeah,
writing all the time.
yeah. I can definitely resonate with that sentiment. There was never a time that I felt like an artist.
Right.
Yeah, like I think like the first concrete thought I had was like I wanted to be a fireman or something like really silly like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I know, it's really bizarre. And then it was like astronaut. Like I was
Okay.
fascinated with space.
I wanted to be an actress.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Um, it just didn't happen ever.
Yeah, obviously, obviously, I never became an astronaut either. So bummer.
But
Okay,
yeah,
yeah,
I would say very early on, I would write all the time.
yeah,
Psh, second grade, I think third
yeah,
grade, as early as I can remember. In school you have to do those little books for like
yeah.
the little fair
For your
thing or
mom or
whatever.
whatever.
Yeah, and whatever. But
Yeah,
I'd take those really seriously, and like I would write like a lot of short stories just about everything, like
yeah.
everything that I was experiencing would become a short story.
Oh well,
Like,
so like that's really interesting. Of
yeah,
like whatever you were experiencing. So it's like a different way of journaling. It's like a fictionalized
almost, yeah,
version of
yeah.
journaling.
Like
Yeah.
I can remember, like I probably still have some of this stuff. My mom kept everything.
Oh, nice.
Um,
Yeah, I
but
found some of my old like poetry and stuff. I was like, oh God.
no,
Yeah,
please.
absolutely not.
But yeah, I remember having my mom's from Greenville, South Carolina, so going taking a trip there,
Yeah,
and then writing this story about me and some cousins like walking down the street and doing random things, and
yeah,
it was like some of it was fictionalized, but it was based on reality.
yeah,
But it was almost like the options that I saw in my head.
yeah. No, it's really like it's interesting because you were engaging in like creative writing before knowing what creative writing
Exactly.
was. Like
Yeah.
you were already breaking the boundaries of like journaling.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. My journaling was not dynamic like that at all. Like it was so like, dear journal, and this is what happened today. And
You guys don't
then,
get it the same as girls. We get the lock,
oh, that's true.
like the
That's
little
true.
books with the lock on it.
Well, I'd always like end up not journaling and then I'd feel bad about it. It was so silly. It's like why?
Hmm.
I don't know. But that's cool. Like so what so it's like it started there. When was kind of your first moment that you wanted to take this seriously? That you wanted to take a concrete step in moving towards like a first step in your, I want to have a career in the arts.
Ooh, that's a tough one too.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, like did the writing evolve into something
I it
or
so this is an interesting story. When I was like 11, 12, I
yeah.
was writing sci-fi during that time.
Oh, cool.
And I had this what do you call it? Back then, I had this collection
Oh,
of
okay.
like,
Yeah.
I had started this
So they were.
novel. I guess I don't know. For me, it
Oh,
was
okay.
just like
So you had like vignettes
right.
of
I had
one
this. I
story.
had this book,
Yeah.
and I was like 11, 12 years old,
Yeah.
and my mom discovered it, and
Oh.
therefore my dad also then discovered it,
Okay.
and they saw, I guess, the potential,
Yeah.
that I was just like, I was just writing because I loved it. I didn't
Yeah.
really wasn't looking to like monetize it in any way. I
Yeah.
just wanted to do it because that's what I like to do. But yeah, I had this really crazy sci-fi story called Created Earths,
Oh,
and
okay. That's cool.
you had the night of the three moon. So like
Oh, that's funny.
when you felt like time was going fast, it was, and when it's slow, it
Yeah.
was.
That's
And
cool.
then like past, present, future all would like coincide on one day,
Yeah.
the night of the three moons. Anyway,
You
they
really
decided.
remember a lot of details from that
I mean, it
story.
was like my passion back
Yeah,
then.
for real.
But my parents found it and got it printed,
Oh, word.
and
Yeah.
I hated everything about it. About that, I hated it.
Yeah. Like the
Like,
fact that it was permanent.
right? Well, I didn't feel like I was finished with it to an
Oh, okay.
extent. Like,
Yeah.
I felt like it could have been better. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm 11. You know what I
Well,
mean? Like,
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
who knows things like this at 11?
Yeah.
I just felt like they just kind of rushed to do it.
Yeah.
It's like pros and cons with that, but like, I was getting out of school and like going to like the local news whatever to talk about it, or being on, you know what I mean? Like,
For real?
yes, it's like
Like,
this whole thing.
like your parents set that up?
Yes, they set this up.
Wow.
So it was like,
That's
yeah, I had a little
wild.
press thing.
Yeah.
Oh
Well, it's
man.
funny because I'm connecting to. I've heard artists say that before of like it wasn't ready, and there was an interview recently, and it was kind of that same thing. It was like a mom that like did whatever, and they weren't ready. So it's interesting that like even though we don't have words for what that is, like as a kid, we're still feeling it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like
So
you're taking this away from me and sharing it with
yeah,
other
but
people.
you're like having a creative conflict, which is
Right.
interesting. You're incapable of talking about your work, but like you're having that like feeling of conflict.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was very upsetting for me at
Yeah.
the time.
Like I want to like ask your mom about like
Oh my
this
god.
this interview. Was it like in the newspaper
I
or
have,
was
I
it
mean, I know it was
or
like,
was it like video
it was like one of those
like a TV
local, like, yeah,
yeah.
what do you call
Like
those
did you
things? Like
go to like a
PBS
studio?
or something, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, 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 like cable access.
yeah, like, the local.
Like did you go to a
I
studio?
actually went to a studio and was
Oh,
like interviewed and
I
like,
got to see this.
sitting down, like
Okay, if we
talking
if
about
we
my
can
book.
find this footage, we will definitely put that up on the screen. Like that's
I
incredible.
would be interested to see what that was
I
like back
really hope
then.
your mom's got
Oh my
something from
god.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was awful. And,
Okay.
and that kind of just made me hide it,
Yeah.
for a long time. I didn't really
Yeah.
write anything after that. And then in high school, I got into like film, like camcorders and things like
Yeah.
that. And like I got the first Mac computer,
Yeah.
the G4 Cube. I
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
that.
It
And so
gave you
like
like Final Cut or whatever it was
iMovie
called,
or whatever.
iMovie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like then I started to get into like film making, and
Yeah.
I carried the camcorder around with me
Yeah.
everywhere.
Were you starting to have like notions of like like I don't know, like focusing into something?
Not really, if that
Yeah,
makes
that's
sense.
interesting.
It's like I just enjoyed
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah.
And I guess that's just like what makes me, I guess, a little bit different in that sense. And maybe that's what you saw in film school. Like I just was
Yeah.
kind of like,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just think it sounds like you naturally just kind of like progressed into that. It wasn't like some logical like experience.
no, I was like
Yeah.
very interested in techie stuff, like
Yeah.
camcorders were the
Yeah.
techie thing, and computer obviously was the techie thing,
Well,
and
it's funny because like I've always seen with you, like you break the rules, and not like in the sense of like,
not like police
however,
don't need to
yeah,
come for
like
me.
yeah, however people see that, not like that, but more in the sense of what you're saying. It's like you're just not bothered by, oh, you're supposed to do it a certain way, or like any just like rules is the wrong word, but you were never stuck in, oh, there's a certain way to do this, or you have to wait until you have X to do something.
Right, back then,
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
very just like, this is what I enjoy, this is what interests me,
yeah,
this is what I spend hours of my day wanting to do and thinking
yeah,
about and can't wait to do again.
yeah,
And just kind of like following that.
yeah,
Um, and like I said, 11th grade, 12th grade, junior, senior year,
yeah.
was part of like the journalism for the yearbook,
Oh, okay, yeah,
and had my little camcorder and was like recording stuff all the time.
yeah.
And just, was working on making a film for my senior class, you know
Oh,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That I never
Like
finished.
a highlight
Right.
type
Kind of
thing.
like a
Okay.
highlight reel,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Never finished it.
That's where most
Had
filmmakers.
Moby as like the
That's where most
background
filmmakers
music.
start. We're doing like home videos. Yeah,
Right.
that's funny.
So I never really thought of myself. I guess when you're in, a senior in high school, you have to think about college, and then you start thinking
Yeah,
about majors, and then you
I
start
know.
to see,
Yeah,
what the majors are. And
yeah,
so it's like, okay, filmmaking,
yeah,
you know. So, it's like, okay, well,
yeah.
this is what I want to do.
So yeah, so you took that filmmaking, experience that you were in, and then said, okay, I want like an education in this.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was kind of your first like solidified, concrete decision of I want to intentionally like take this path.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
What like it's interesting. It makes me want to like think about like what definitely knowing your story and where it's turned. It's like what did you have in your mind of, okay, I'm going to take this concrete decision. I think this concrete decision is going to get me to X. Like, what did X look like for you?
Ooh. No idea.
Are you for real?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's reality in my head sometimes, Aaron.
Yeah, no, I mean, I
But
love that. Yeah.
no, I mean, I wanted to go to SCAD
Okay.
back when
Yeah.
I first graduated. My
Yeah.
my mom really didn't want me to go. Very I was brought up very religious,
Yeah.
So it was that part of me also that was like, oh, I'm just gonna get married
Gotcha.
and have babies and
Yeah.
like, and
It's
do life.
it's funny. It's like I feel the need to like explain that we both have this like religious education background because, I was dealing with the same thing. It was like first undergrad degree was at a Christian school, Christian college, and definitely the objective was to like get married for most people.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I ended up not going to SCAD and going
Yeah.
to Bob Jones,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
even worse.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of rules, Bob Jones.
Oh my gosh. I got kicked out of that school, and
Yeah.
so I finished my undergrad at South Carolina.
Yeah.
Um, but going back to just writing, discovering what screenwriting was,
Yeah.
I was thinking like, oh, I'll do that.
Yeah.
I'll be a screenwriter. I'll write movies that would be like emotionally powerful and then change people's perceptions of things. Like that's kind of
Yeah.
what I want. Like I
Like
was
where
interested
did that come from, a certain place?
I mean, just watching movies myself. Like I
Yeah.
remember one of the first movies for whatever reason that had like a huge impact on me
I'm like, where is this gonna go?
was Armageddon.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Oh, I can
like
hear the song.
like
Like,
America.
Ben Affleck doing the what was it, like the animal cookie thing?
I think it was special for me because I saw it like on vacation.
Oh, it was all the
Um,
feels for me, like as a teenager, like
yeah,
watching that. And then you had like the music videos that went
it,
with it.
right. This was like
Yeah.
it's like something potentially that could happen, but
Yeah.
it's kind of like not really gonna happen. You think,
Well, yeah,
you
like
think,
the idea of how the end of the world
right.
changes your perspective.
But
Yeah.
just getting caught up in like those emotions,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like I love that, and I wanted my writing to do that, to like
Yeah.
make people feel like something's happening when it's
Yeah.
not really. It's just in your mind.
Yeah.
But I wanted to be able to manipulate emotions like that
Yeah.
and in people and through my writing. So
Yeah.
to like take you on a journey almost of what was going on in my mind in
Yeah.
a sense,
Yeah.
to be able to really articulate that was kind of like what I wanted to do. And when I learned about screenwriting and like, the format and all that kind of stuff, it was like, oh, okay, like
Yeah.
this is where this is going. This is where this talent that I've been given is taking me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that for you you really had no notion of like what it might look like. Like you didn't have like this solidified goal in your mind.
No, I mean you
Yeah.
see, like you watch like the Oscars and things
Like
like that.
like I say it for like you and I know, like when we were at School of the Arts, it's kind of where you're going now with
Right,
this
yeah.
Oscars thing, but it's like you just have this kind of like visual of what your life looks like, you know what I mean, when you quote unquote make it, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think starting at the School of the Arts and like
Yeah.
seeing more of like the behind the scenes type of things, like, you know, everybody watches movies, but it's
Yeah.
like when you get to a point where you're actually studying them, and like I
Yeah.
remember one of the things that they made us do in film school was actually sit and through the credits.
Oh yeah, do you remember that?
It's
Yeah.
like that's the
I
first
know.
time I remember like, oh shit, there's a lot of people.
Even now I have those moments when I see movies sometimes where I'm like, why do I feel like I can't leave?
Because yes, we're trapped. We have to say to
I,
show respect.
I know. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like so many people goes into making movies, and then like
Yeah.
you only really hear about like the actors or the
Yeah.
directors. So like even then, it's like it gave you the feeling that if you wasn't on the stage winning the awards,
Yeah.
then it's like you wasn't doing anything worth anything.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's funny, like it brings up that kind of like that concept of like I think we as whatever we are, I don't know if we're millennials, I have no idea. But it's that idea of like X marks the spot. Like if you do this and you do this and you do this, you'll get this. And I think we both learned pretty quickly that that's not true. Um, what was kind of that moment where you felt that first feeling of like, okay, I don't think I'm going to end up where I thought I was, and you kind of had to make your first pivot.
Oh, that was my first marriage. No, I was kidding.
In your artistic
Oh,
career.
okay. Oh man. Well, not being able to go to SCAD was kind of like
Yeah.
a really
Okay.
and I ended up going to Bob Jones because of I went to a Christian high school.
Yeah.
The principal at the time said, Bob Jones has an amazing filmmaking program. I should go there.
Yeah.
Not knowing anything about Bob Jones.
Well, yeah, or anything about filmmaking
But then also
programs.
getting there
Yeah.
and it's like, oh yeah, you're not allowed to watch, anything rated PG or 13 or higher. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah,
what is this? Yeah.
for those of our viewers that don't know anything about the evangelical community, it can get pretty weird. Like where you're only allowed to watch Disney movies, and even then, you can't watch all those.
No, some of those are not good.
Yeah. So, and yeah,
So
it's interesting of you specifically choosing that and knowing that it's cutting you off
Well,
from,
I didn't have any idea.
yeah.
I just thought like,
Okay.
well, I would go to Bob Jones. They have a filmmaking program. I kind of
Yeah.
have the same kind of life that I've been had up until this point with the Christianity
Yeah.
and whatnot. Um, but then getting kicked out of there and then following the guy I was dating
Yeah.
to South Carolina, where they didn't have a filmmaking program.
Oh, okay.
Um, you know, I kind of was like, well, I want to write. Writing is
Yeah.
still the thing, so they have a journalism program. So
Oh, okay.
this
Yeah.
is where I'll do that.
So that was kind of like your first pivot.
Pivot,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
Um, so went, graduated from University of South Carolina, Columbia,
Yeah.
a degree in journalism. This was like 2005,
Yeah.
right? And nobody could get a job at that point.
Yeah.
I ended up like driving a school bus
Nice. Yeah.
for a little bit until I got a job at the newspaper.
Yeah.
But then it was like more into sales because like I made more money selling classified ads than I did
Yeah.
like writing anything.
Well, and I think it's important to note too, it's like you choosing to go to school for a relationship. It's like your first, school, like higher ed experience was because you wanted a certain skill set. And then like you got kicked out of that and it was like, you are human. So you got in a relationship and so you followed that relationship to South Carolina.
Right.
I mean, so that's a part of your story, your artistic life,
Right.
it kind of led you to South Carolina. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so journalism, so you're working at the newspaper
Right.
and then you're working in sales.
Right.
Okay.
Got roped into radio. I
Yeah.
had a brother-in-law who was a record rep and
Yeah.
was really good friends with the program director at, I think it was 98.3 The Beat at the time.
Oh, nice. Wow, you
And
still remember it. Was there like a tagline or something?
well, yeah.
Okay, wait.
So yeah, I ended up doing that. Getting like doing the remotes and stuff like live on air
Oh,
and
sweet.
still religious, so to speak. And
Yeah.
the program director at the time wanted to do something different to compete with the other radio station.
Okay.
And I listened to a lot of Christian hip hop back then.
Yeah.
And so it was just like I can play Christian hip hop
Yeah.
on Sunday mornings instead of gospel.
Oh yeah. No,
And
I know.
we'd be fire.
I know. Like it's funny because of like, I don't know how to say this, like just how Christian music is. It's like, hip hop is like, you know what I mean? It's like really pushing the boundary.
Oh God, yes.
And we're talking Christian hip hop, like,
Oh, it was
like,
it was a battle. You have no idea.
yeah, like so
but
many lines about the spirit and
I ended up having a show on 98.3 The Beat called Born Again Beats
oh my gosh.
for about a year where I played
Born Again Beats.
Christian hip hop Sunday mornings 9 to 11.
That's what I'm talking about.
But yeah.
Yeah. Well, but I think it's important too. It's like your artistic life, it's relationships, it's faith, and everyone's different in the sense of where they come from, in that relationship to faith or their perspective on faith. But yeah, like it's driving some of those moments for you.
Right. Well, even with radio, I found like the spark again, like having to make like the little commercials and stuff that you hear on radio.
Oh, yeah. Like the spots.
The spots,
Okay.
and I was able to make, and like the creativity came back out again.
Yeah. That's interesting. It's like a real world application
Right.
to creativity and inspiration.
But, what I was dealing with when it came to spirituality with the radio, I had a lot of people actually calling, and like I would throw concerts and like where people got saved and like
okay. So like the calling was like they were calling in about their problems and stuff?
Well,
or
no,
just,
they were
okay.
calling about like to ask questions about the Bible or like,
Okay.
you know how it is.
So these weren't strictly like programming music shows.
Well,
Like
no, I
you were
mean,
bringing yourself to it.
well, I had the 2 hour block, so
Yeah.
I would play music, but I would also get the chance to talk in between.
Yeah.
But I would have people calling up, and I had like a little minute where I'd have like a pastor or somebody come in to give like a
Oh.
little word,
Okay. Okay.
during it as well.
Yeah.
But I would have people calling in to ask questions about Christianity and faith and all that kind of stuff. And like,
Yeah.
even though I had went to a Christian school 6th to 12th grade, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I felt like I didn't know all the answers, so I didn't really want to like mess anybody else up by trying to
Yeah.
like answer a question that I wasn't really comfortable with.
Oh, it's
So,
interesting.
so
Yeah.
I decided to go back to school. I started online
Yeah.
and got a master's in ministry
Okay.
just to
Yeah. Yeah.
and a part of that too, I kept that up because I also knew I kind of wanted to go back to film school.
Yeah.
Well, to go do film school
Yeah.
again, like working at the radio and stuff. It was like, oh, I really, it
Yeah.
brought back, like I said, the creativity
Okay.
and wanting to pursue. And plus, I had like got divorced and stuff, so it was like,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I got my life
Well,
back.
I mean, that's another part of artistic life is, things happen which change your perspective.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
They open your mind back up to who you were before you got into that relationship.
but I had missed the deadline to get into the School of the Arts,
Okay.
so I had to wait
Yeah.
a year
Yeah.
because if you don't apply by January, you got to wait till the next fall to
Yeah.
start.
I know.
But yeah, so I put in the application. I had to wait the year. I ended up finishing my master's in the meantime,
Yeah.
and then starting at the School of the Arts, which I think was the perfect timing for me.
Yeah.
Just because Lauren Velchik
Well,
started.
I was about to say my brain was already going there. Like, was to talk about mentors. So, like for you, being in that environment, like, what were some of your connections to mentors?
Back then,
Yeah.
I guess I was living such a different life than I feel like my parents had in mind for me.
Yeah.
I was just kind of doing my own thing and
Yeah.
figuring out my own things. I thought differently about the world.
Well, it kind of felt like you were allowed to do that.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
totally. But they couldn't guide me in
Yeah.
those sense. My
Yeah.
parents
Yeah.
weren't artistic people.
Yeah.
My dad says he was a thespian back in his day, but
Yeah.
who knows?
I don't know.
But like they couldn't really give me any insight, and I didn't have
Yeah.
anybody to talk to
Yeah.
about it. I mean, the closest thing to an artist I think in my family was like somebody who wanted to be a rapper that I knew. You know what I mean?
Nice. Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, like I just
So you felt yourself naturally gravitating towards needing a guide, so to speak.
right,
Okay.
yeah, like
Yeah.
okay. Especially too by that point, like I said, when I got to film school, I felt like 3 different lifetimes. Like the
Yeah.
divorce,
I
like
know.
the journalism, like the
Well,
radio.
but I think that's what was interesting for us is like I know, we all had like our paths that we were thinking about and we had our goals, but I feel like we were really open to life in the sense of like just enjoying the creative space.
Yes.
Like I felt like that was something that we all connected to as older students at School of the Arts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So who was that first like mentor relationship that you sought out?
Well, Lauren, obviously, Lauren Velchik.
Okay.
Shouts out, Lauren.
So yeah, Lauren Vilcek.
Because I started at School of the Arts, wanted to do screenwriting, was signed
Yeah.
up to do screenwriting, but they make
Yeah.
you do everything the first year. You have to do a little bit of directing, editing,
Yep.
cinematography, a little bit of everything.
Producing was the one that I learned the most about, that I knew nothing about.
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
I thought producers were the people that just like gave money towards the film, and now I'm like, no, that's executive producers. Those people are paying for credits. Producers do a lot of work.
They do all the work.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, no, when it was more of a thing with Lauren. She was so smart. She's so educated.
Yeah.
She's also a lawyer and like
Yep.
did Cabin Fever, which was super successful.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
but
and I'll throw out there with Lauren, like, she got me into like we ended up talking about like spiritual books. Like she got me onto some Jewish authors that I had never heard of, that I still read today. So that's what I liked about her, was
interesting.
that it was more than just like career in film industry. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah,
She was like, going into screenwriting, but then choosing producing as my second. So
yeah,
by the end of the first year, it was just like no brainer. I just was gonna go. I was gonna be a producer.
yeah.
Like no questions
Oh, I
because you know
remember.
everything.
Yeah, that was the first split for us. Was like my first pick for concentration was screenwriting, and then the second was producing, just because of Lauren. And I knew, having a kid and a family, there was no way for me to give the time commitment that it
to
needed to
producing.
be a producer. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a
yeah.
huge.
So that was like our first split. Was like you were moving into the producing world, and then I was pushing harder into
In
screenwriting.
screenwriting.
Yeah,
Yeah. But for me, it was more so of being able to have the control, in the sense
yeah,
of like I could write
yeah.
and I knew how to write, and once you get the
Yeah,
format down to an extent, you can be a screenwriter
yeah,
um, to an extent. But then you would
yeah,
need a producer
yeah.
to make it.
It felt like you moved more into a conceptual frame of mind when it came to story, when you started going the producing route.
Right.
Like it was really helpful to me, because I was always so focused on, the details of
Oh,
the
yeah.
characters and, the world. Yeah, you got way more conceptual.
I felt that too with us,
Yeah,
like, cause I could kind of skim over an overview.
yeah,
I could I could kind of skim over the overview
yeah.
and like see that as clear as day. But
Okay.
you were the one who like filled in like all these like
Yeah.
details, like to really give it roots.
Yeah.
You know, I could kind of see like an arc.
Well, and that's what was funny is like I would get lost in that, and it was very much you were trying to pull me back up to go like, all right, I like all this, but like let's come back to the overall concept.
Yeah,
Yeah, like I definitely got lost in the minutia a lot, but I enjoyed it
that's so interesting
for sure.
that the training kind of took us our
Yeah.
storytelling like in a different
Yeah.
path.
Well, and it was like I was hearing you and this new perspective, and that's what made me want to connect with Lauren, even though she's not screenwriting faculty. I was like, I want some of what Bernice is getting, because like I just feel like I'm getting stuck over here. Yeah.
And the well, you did like have a kid.
Well,
Like
I did. Yeah,
it's
I
like I
was.
was going to Europe, I think, at the time, and like
Yeah,
interning over
yeah, you
there
were. Yeah,
with Vertigo Films and stuff, and like,
yeah, you came back with a boyfriend from Europe.
oh, let's not talk about that one. Not that one.
I mean, it was that was pretty funny. I'll never forget like him bringing tea, and like we had tea at the dining room
Some
table.
crumpets.
Those crumpets, that was pretty funny.
Oh
Yeah,
god.
I enjoyed that. But no, that was like the spirit of who you were. It was like, I'm gonna go to Europe this summer, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like, uh, yeah, it's just like I knew there was no plan to that. It was just like you just wanted to experience that.
Yeah, it was so random.
Yeah,
It started when I was getting my master's in ministry.
yeah,
I switched all the classes to online and took off and got a bunch of money back.
yeah.
And then like lived in Europe for like 4 months and
Well,
bought a
but
car.
that's why I was always kind of amazed by you, is that you knew how to work the system.
Oh
Like
god.
you could immediately see, all right, like what are the opportunities that I could take advantage of to be more effective in my own time, to
Hmm.
get a stronger or like broader experience than what they're offering me. Like, and that's what I mean. Like you weren't constrained by like this is how you're supposed to do it, or this is the way that most people do it. And I think that's really translated into producing for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still stuck though. Like, it's like
Well,
what am I supposed to be doing? Who
yeah.
knows? I have no idea. I just feel like,
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Yeah.
That saying, it is like, that's kind of how I guess life is for me. It is what it is. Like,
Yeah.
when I decide to actually insert myself into something,
Yeah.
then, it changes the direction of things.
Yeah.
But other than that, I kind of like just go with the flow, and
Yeah.
it's just so many ideas out there, so many people, there's so many books, there's so many, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
TV
No, I
shows,
know.
there's so many movies. um that was the thing at School of the Arts. It was like, you have to watch this or you have to watch that,
Yeah.
and it's like, why?
Yeah. I
I
know.
don't
And
care.
that's what's funny is that I was so willing to do all that because, like one, I enjoyed it, but two, I was very much that personality that didn't mind doing it. You know what I mean? It was
Yeah,
like, and it just, for some reason, it felt like, oh, well, if you really care about this, you should have seen these movies or whatever.
right.
And now I feel like I'm unlearning
All of that.
all of that. Um, yeah, no, I think now kind of like knowing your story and knowing where for you the shift in your journey, so to speak, your X marks the spot. Um, so you go into reality TV. How like what was the first opportunity in reality TV? And again, this is something that we weren't taught at School of the Arts.
Oh no,
Yeah.
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 I mean, to talk about reality TV at the School of the Arts was like, are you going to be a janitor?
It's true.
Like, or
My
like
brain,
what?
my brain can't help but be like, "Oh, you're gonna do sitcoms and
Like,
reality TV?
like
That's
that
trash."
is so trash.
Yeah,
It's like,
you're right. Yeah,
yeah, it was just not at the same level as a film or whatever.
yeah,
But I did the whole Peter Bogdanovich thing at
yeah,
school,
yeah.
which
Another
led
mentor.
another mentor led me
Yeah.
to New York, and
Well, a
then
mentor that you actually like, kind of lived out life with.
yeah, me and
Yeah,
Pete had great times.
yeah. Like you and Pete went like all over the place. Did y'all
Yeah,
ever get an international trip?
no,
Okay,
I
it was
didn't.
all stateside. Okay.
Yeah, it was all stateside, but
Yeah.
yeah, Pete was he was great. I started with him at School of the Arts
Yeah.
transcribing his diary that he kept from like
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
65 to
Yeah.
1971 or something like that,
Yep.
handwritten every day. Speaking
Hmm.
of diaries,
Yeah.
and
Oh yeah,
like,
that's true.
yeah,
Yeah.
transcribing it, and we just became really close. And um, when he left is why I left.
Yeah.
That, and I was like tapped out as well after all these years of school, but
Yeah.
went to New York to do She's Funny That
Well,
Way.
it was more like you were just ready.
Right.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
you were ready to start a career, like
I was
whatever.
ready to get in
You're ready
there.
for the next step.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Peter, yeah, took me to New York to do She's Funny That Way.
Which
Man.
that was like who was in that? There were like big names in that
Oh,
one.
that was Owen
Like
Wilson,
Michael Shannon.
Zach Galifianakis.
Who's the one that we're
No, wait, that was You Are Here. Sorry.
Oh.
So She's Funny That Way was Jennifer Aniston,
Jennifer Aniston.
Owen
Michael
Wilson,
Shannon.
Michael Shannon,
Okay. Yep.
Will Forte, Catherine Hahn.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Imogen Poots.
Oh yeah, Imogen. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was wild. So I
Yeah.
got to do that in New York, and that ended up taking us to LA for a bit.
Yeah.
Um, but what was the question?
So so it's like I know that eventually veered into reality TV.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So yeah, after that, after we went to LA, I moved back
Yeah.
to actually start a career. Was doing feature films, like
Yep.
production.
Oh yeah, you were running like out of the office.
Yeah, I was in the
Yeah.
office. I was like
Yep.
production secretary, travel coordinator for like Disappointments Room.
Yeah, like cutting checks.
Yeah, cutting checks. I was payroll at some point.
There we go, payroll.
I got the job to do. I got a lot of assistant jobs. So I got
Yeah.
from Peter, and then I did Shirley MacLaine.
Yep.
And then I got the job with Frances McDormand for
Oh yeah.
3 billboards.
Yep.
And that was kind of another mini shift because
Yeah.
I got along well with like the talent,
Yeah.
So I was
And
like,
you were driving Francis
I
McDormand,
was
right? Or
driving,
but
yeah.
you were like more like of an assistant too?
Yeah, so I
Yeah,
was like an
okay.
assistant slash driver,
Yeah.
for like, yeah, Shirley MacLaine, Francis McDormand, Peter.
Yeah.
That was just, I was just with them,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So for Three Billboards and talking to Frances, she actually hooked me up with her agency company, Circle of Confusion,
Yeah.
and so I got a job at on a literary desk.
That's what it was. So
Right,
you actually like moved out to California.
moved to California.
Yep.
Was gonna pursue like talent management. They didn't have an opening in talent.
Yeah.
They only had like the literary desk, so I took
Yeah.
that just to like buy time.
Yeah.
But just being in LA and starting over
Yeah.
again, I had a kid by that time too.
Yeah. True.
That was just not happening.
Yeah.
So I came back. I was fortunate enough to get another production coordinating gig doing Juanita for Netflix
Okay.
in Virginia.
Yeah.
And that was like the first job I had when I came back. So I was kind of just taking anything I could
It's
get.
funny. I remember so many phone calls where I would get these like details. It's like it's all coming back. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just taking anything I could get. Got a call about a PA job.
Yeah.
So for those who are not familiar, coming
Yeah.
a production coordinator is like, pretty top in the office.
Yeah.
And the PA is the bottom.
Mhm.
So I was going from pretty top.
PAs can range from like holding traffic
Right.
to getting coffee.
But it was okay because,
Yeah.
it was work in North Carolina. It was in Greensboro,
Yeah.
which is like,
So
30
it's like
minutes away.
it shifted for you in the sense of like there was local work.
Right.
Yeah.
I wanted to be home.
Which again is another stereotype that like, oh, you have to be in LA to be in the film
Yeah.
industry. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I wanted to be home with near my parents, raising my kid with familiar things that I was familiar with growing up. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I got offered a job as a PA for this reality show that shot in Greensboro that I had never heard of, but it was
Yeah.
going into its fourth season,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
yeah.
it was called My Big Fat Fabulous Life.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? Sure.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then I remember getting there. I was PA with another guy, Aaron. His name is Aaron also.
Oh, nice.
But he was fresh out of college,
Yeah.
like fresh out.
Yep.
And it was kind of like training him as a PA as well as me
exactly.
being a PA.
Yeah, because you've got all this
Right,
experience
but
from
we
film
had
school.
we had so much fun,
Yeah.
and because of he wanted to learn a lot more. He wanted to do mostly everything, and like
Yeah.
I'd done this before,
Yeah.
not in reality, but I PA'd obviously, so
Yeah.
I was just kind of, so he kind of let me kind of stay back and watch. So like while we were filming, he would be the one taking set stills, and I would be
Oh,
like
okay.
near
Yeah.
Video Village, kind of like peeping out everything,
Yeah.
and just was just so fascinated with how the dance of the
Yeah.
production when they came to reality worked. And then yeah, next season, they were like, "You're not a PA, are you?" And I was like, "No, no, I'm not." But this
You
is
have a
fun.
lot more experience.
Right. So they brought me back as a segment producer the
Yeah.
following year, and I did that for, oh my god, like 4 or 5 seasons, and now fill producer.
Yeah.
So it's just been a natural progression in reality TV, which it kind of speaks to my mind somehow.
Yeah.
Just the amount of information that you have to keep up with is insane, and
Yeah.
for some reason with my brain,
Yeah.
it's just like, oh, this is fun.
Yeah.
Let's keep doing this.
Well, and because for you, it's like you like at the end of the day of a shoot, it's like you're not done. Like you're carrying whatever it is, like 7-act structure. I can't remember what reality TV is. Like you're carrying that, but then you're carrying what you have to shoot the next day, what all has to be lined up, what all has to be sent out to the crew, and then you start the next day at like what time?
This show's pretty relaxed.
Oh, well, that's good. That's good. There's no 5 a.m. calls.
There's
or
not
anything?
rarely any,
Okay, well, that's good. Yeah.
it's chill in that way. Like,
Yeah.
their day probably doesn't start before 10, 9, 10
Okay,
most
that's
days.
nice. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, then we're going later.
Okay.
But
Okay.
it's not as bad early start. It's
Yeah.
earlier for me because I have to drive the 30 minutes.
Yeah. Well,
But
and so, all right. So now, like, knowing, you kind of organically started your artistic journey, so to speak. Um, it led you, like, life led you to, like Bob Jones, to journalism, to School of the Arts,
radio.
to radio, to reality TV. So now that you're kind of on the other side of things, what would you have told that younger version of yourself before you went to Bob Jones?
Don't go to Pop Dance.
So it's like yeah, don't go to Bob Jones. But it's like you've learned a lesson too through this whole journey. Like in the sense of the thing that I see even for myself is that now being on the other side, like actually seeing what actually happened in my journey or career, it's distilled down like what actually matters. So like for you, like what's that thing that you would tell that younger version of yourself before she went to Bob Jones of like, hey, this is actually what matters?
Ooh, it's so complicated because, like,
Yeah.
when you're talking about involving a kid or
Yeah.
your family,
Well, I mean, and that's life. I
right,
think we hurt ourselves when we simplify life too much, which is easy to do when you're thinking about a career.
right.
You're not thinking about the rest of your life.
You know, that's a really tough one.
Yeah.
I think, trying to break it down by categories, right?
Okay.
When it comes to family,
Yeah.
I would want to have kept us closer
Yeah.
longer. I felt
Okay.
like after high school, I spent a good, I don't know, 8 years or so just kind of being all
Yeah.
over the place, which is good. You know what I
Yeah. It was
mean?
like you were having fun.
Yeah, I was definitely having fun, but I just didn't, I feel like I would have wanted to experience more with my parents.
Okay. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Like familial connections and
Right. Yeah, I
relationships.
feel like I
Yeah.
have all these things that they can't relate to and I can only tell them about.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, when it came to career, I
Like you'd
think
want more of an everyday presence with
yes.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of,
So it's almost like you'd be telling yourself, like, hey, I know that you don't think that like this is something that you want, but it is actually something that you want.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like figure out a way to integrate more of a consistent presence with your family.
Right.
Yeah.
Career-wise, I think, I went from just writing short stories to longer stories,
Yeah.
to editing film on a Mac G4 Cube to
Oh my God.
to,
So some of these old models is
to,
wild to think about.
to journalism to radio, which I feel like all combined,
Yeah.
it really kept the ball moving
Yeah.
in my career. It was like not kind of wasted time.
Yeah.
Like I learned definitely skills from radio. I definitely learned skills from journalism.
Yeah.
I learned some skills from ministry.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not like it's wasted time.
Yeah.
Um, but it has to be a reason for it, I believe,
Yeah.
which I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to look at that overview like you said I'm good at, but it's hard for me to see that.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I think like, and again, this will be, I don't want to put the words in your mouth, but it's like the idea of like intention and purpose is almost something you would say back to your younger self of like, hey, discovery is great and you want to do that, but there are also times that we want to be intentional
about
about what we're doing.
right.
Yeah.
I think I would have told my younger self to pick a lane
Yeah.
and actually stay in the lane,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it will get you a lot further.
Yeah. Yeah.
Faster, maybe not, who
Yeah.
knows, but
Well, it's almost like you're saying, like, give yourself a chance at whatever that lane is, you know?
right,
Yeah. Like, don't veer out of it too early. Like, give yourself a chance to really, like, run that course.
right.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times, and I remember this in like film school,
Yeah.
it's like people jumped to a major that they thought was going to be the fastest way
Yeah.
to success, when in reality it was not meant for them.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, that's that part of, like, you're discovering who you are
Yeah.
as a person, and that's running in parallel with growing as an artist.
It's
Yeah.
like you
And you
were
can't ignore who you are as a person. Yeah.
right. And a lot of people try to ignore who they are as a person
Yeah.
by looking at the thing which they thought was going to make the most money or bring the most success.
Well, and you and I know what will happen is they'll put on personas.
Right.
So instead of being themselves, they know that a director looks like this because they've seen it behind the scenes. So they'll put on that persona.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't have time for that.
Yeah, I can't do that. Unfortunately, I'm incapable of doing that. Like, this is what you get. But
It
yeah,
almost like, for me, I kind of was so open to the extent that I just kind of like, if it was happening, it was meant to be happening. So
yeah,
I'm good with it.
yeah,
And I kind of wish I would have like scaled back a little bit more. And
yeah.
like you said, be more intentional.
And it almost sounds like taking some time to reflect
Right.
on what did I get from that previous experience before I move on to another experience.
Instead of just looking at it as like an experience to write about,
Yeah,
like actually reflect and be
yeah,
like, how did it make me feel?
yeah,
And
yeah.
like,
True. Yeah,
what did I like about it? What do I not like about it?
yeah,
I just took it as face value.
yeah,
It is what it is.
yeah,
So I think, yeah, because I mean, if I actually stopped and think about how I felt at the radio station or at the newspaper,
yeah.
you know, I probably would have
Hmm.
pushed me back to, I think, filmmaking sooner.
Yeah. Oh, it's interesting that you say that, like, in the sense of feeling. It's
Mm,
like you're almost looking back, going, I wasn't really checking in with myself to be like, how does this feel? Like, how does this connect to who I am as a person? Like what you were saying, when students choose a discipline because they feel like it's going to be the most successful, but they don't match with it. Like they can't naturally, you know, fill in that position, so to speak. And so it brings me, it almost feels like we've hit present day in your story of, I feel like that's where you're at now.
yes.
Like, you're checking in with yourself to be like, what am I feeling? What am I connecting
Right.
with? What am I not connecting with?
I don't think there's really anybody that can, like, that teaches you
Yeah.
how to do that. Like, our parents are just only going about
Yeah.
life how they know it.
Yeah.
Your mentors are going about life as they know it, and trying to get you on this career path.
Yeah.
But nobody's really saying, hey, like, check in with yourself.
Yeah.
What do you want to do? What brings you joy?
Yeah.
What?
Well, but I think what you're saying is, like, it's so true of the older generation is very much about giving us instructions
Mm-hmm.
for, like, here's activity, like, here's proactivity that you should be doing, but it's almost like you're just living in your head and you're ignoring your body. Like, you have no idea what's going on
Right.
here in the sense of the feeling part. And so it's like, for our generation, it's very much saying time out. Like, I want to turn the treadmill off and I want to feel again. And I want to use that to figure out where I want to go and what I want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, honestly, I think that's a great thing to end on is that idea of taking care of yourself. It's like, I know that people feel like, well, if I take care of myself, it's going to limit my opportunities. And it's like, if those opportunities disappear because you're taking care of yourself, they were supposed to disappear.
Right.
Yeah.
Instead of just trying to jump on every opportunity
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
Reflect, yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I wish I would have done that
Yeah.
when I still had my knees, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's like for me, like I really wish I would have been less about trying to present myself and really just connecting to what is it that I care about, and allowing myself the space and the time to express that, create stuff, but then let that stuff speak to me and
Mm,
let that guide me. And less, oh, if I do this and if I do that and I present myself in this way, that'll get me in this room and that'll get me here. I feel like I lost out on an opportunity to connect to exactly what you're saying. How do I feel?
yeah. I feel
Yeah.
like, life throws life
Yeah.
at us, and it's
Yeah.
like we have to focus on making money to survive,
Yeah.
and planning and
Yeah.
buying and saving, and so you do things because it is kind of like a shortcut in your mind or a guarantee in your mind,
Yeah.
and it's not necessarily what you want to do, but it's something that you feel like you're forced to do in order to just survive, and
Yeah.
even like with working in the industry, it is
Yeah.
such long days and like grueling, and like you have to
Yeah.
travel sometimes, and like
But that's
um
what I love about your story is that you were checking in. You knew I don't want to keep doing this. Where most people will just keep doing it.
right.
Yeah. Like you were like, this doesn't I don't want to do this
In
in this way.
this way anymore, but
Yeah.
yeah, but I
Yeah.
have to for
Yeah.
now because
Yeah.
this is how I get paid and how I
Yeah.
survive.
Yeah.
But you know I don't know, I kind of always saw myself as a facilitator
Yeah.
in a sense,
Yeah.
um I enjoy helping people. I
Yeah.
enjoy sharing my thought process about getting, the most bang for your buck, so to speak.
Yeah.
Um, but what would I say the purpose of that is?
Yeah.
I can't say.
Well, what it goes back to for me in observing from the outside, it's like you squeeze everything you can get out of things, whether it's experiences or, like you said, like money
Hmm.
or time. You were always, you had such a, it's not like a logistical brain, but you were kind of able to see everything and go, okay, they say you're supposed to do it this way, but if you did it this way, you could capitalize on this. Like you could squeeze out.
I probably should have been a lawyer.
Yeah, like probably,
You're
probably,
like, yeah.
yeah, probably, yeah, or finance or something. But yeah, no, that's the way that I saw your ability to look at things is you were always going to get the most out of something.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I definitely, yeah. I still feel that way. Like I have to
yeah,
get
yeah, yeah,
my best friend. She was just like, she laughs at me. She's like, "You'd probably call up like Duke Power to get argue over $5." I was like, "I sure will."
exactly. Well, and it goes back to, like, because you were more of the risk taker. I was definitely more of the status quo. Like, don't want to create any ripples in the water. Um, and I think it's that mindset of just you don't see things the way that everyone else does, which is obviously important for you as a producer. Producers have to see things a different way. They can't think. They don't get the luxury of thinking like everyone else.
Isn't that strange when we say that though? It's like you
Yeah,
think differently than, but
yeah.
doesn't everybody?
I mean, but we're so stuck on our own experience. Like we think everyone else thinks and feels the same way we do. I think.
You
Like,
think? I don't know.
yeah. Like I
I think you're
wish
right.
I could get outside of it's almost like how I feel is so strong. I have a hard time getting outside of it, to imagine like what does it like look like if everyone thinks differently and feels differently. I think we just like homogenize experience.
Mm,
I think
that's
like
interesting.
we're the center of our own world, like we really can't help ourselves.
I have conversations with my boyfriend Ariel, and
Yeah.
he points out a lot to me about my different thought process. I
Oh,
guess.
that's funny. I'm not the only one
Um,
talking about this.
like I remember laying in bed with him one night watching TV,
Yeah.
and I was like, man, I can think of a time when I was younger,
Yeah.
you know, thinking about what life was going to be like when I found my person
Yeah.
and just chilling watching TV. And like he's
Yeah.
like, is that a girl thing? Like, but then I asked
No.
like my friend, and she's like, never did that.
Well, yeah, no, I like I can resonate with that
Yeah.
too in the sense of what we talked about. It's like I've had enough iterations to now know what that should feel like or what I
Mm.
want that to feel like.
What we want it to feel like. I
Yeah.
think that's when we're younger and we have these images of things. I think it's almost like it's at its purest form,
Yeah.
the feeling and the emotions. And so when something does trigger you that takes you back to the childhood,
Yeah.
I feel like that's such a beautiful thing,
Yeah.
like the positive, because obviously there could be some negatives,
Yeah.
but like,
Trauma.
yeah,
Yeah.
but like just like those wants and
Yeah.
those cravings when you're younger,
Yeah.
I feel like are I've heard many people say this too, like with the
Yeah.
things that interest you when you're younger or
Yeah.
your passions in life are
Yeah,
really,
yeah. Like it's not like you can't discredit it. It's just like child's
right.
play or you're just a kid.
Like so when I think about
Yeah.
how I was like always writing something,
Yeah.
like there have been times recently where I've sat down to try to write again,
Yeah.
and like 10 minutes into it, I'm just like, I love this so much,
Yeah.
but I don't allow myself the time to do it anymore
Yeah.
because I'm busy making money or living life or doing other things. But it's
Yeah.
like, wow, I have ideas come to me all the time, and
Yeah.
it's just like, I can't. But just like starting again since the seasons ended this last time,
Yeah.
like sitting down, breaking out final draft, I had to like
Yeah.
brush up on how to use it again.
Yeah.
It's been so long.
No.
But I was like, oh,
Yeah.
it just came back, and it was just like, oh, I love
Yeah.
this. This is great. And then next thing you know, I
Yeah.
like knocked out 15 pages, and it's like,
Well, I think it's that part of like that was definitely a change for me of like when you're wanting it to be a career, you lose like that personal connection. Like you're bringing style that's you and whatever, but I think for me getting on the other side of it was I need this. Like whether I do anything with this or not,
whether it makes me
I
money or not.
yeah, like it doesn't matter. I need to create this space for myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny, it's like you asked me what an artistic life is, and I think now in this space, that's what an artistic life is. And I don't think you can control it. I think you really just have to facilitate that space for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and then whatever comes out of that comes out of that, you know. But you'd be better off doing that for yourself than trying to, like you said, like quickly trying to monetize it or figure out where it's going to go or what's my next step. It's like if you can create the space where you're doing this because you need it and it's a part of taking care of yourself. It's no
Right.
different than getting sleep and drinking water and being sustainable. Like it's the same as that. Like I need this creative space as much as I need those basic tenets of life.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just funny when we talked about doing this podcast.
Yeah.
it's just like I didn't realize like all this work that goes into like creating the background,
Yeah.
creating the space. And it's
Yeah.
like, thinking about what YouTube used to be like when it first came out, and it was just about
Yeah. I mean, it was more like fail videos.
right,
Yeah.
it's like everything has to be or should be so perfect, and it's like
Yeah.
it almost annoyed me doing this like on one
Yeah.
hand,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then on the other hand it's like I know it's necessary because this is what people expect,
Yeah.
but at the same time it's like just do you, man. Just do
Yeah.
you.
No. No, I think it's like when I was kind of talking about like this feels like a great ending. It's almost like these kind of core tenets of like, take care of yourself, facilitate creative space for yourself, um, and and really check in with yourself, listen to yourself, feel like it sounds bizarre that that's such an important tenet that you should have as an artist
Hmm.
because all we ever talk about is like, oh, they were sad and they wrote that song, and it's like you really do need to know what you're feeling to be able to find that compass, because it's more of a compass. It's not like just take a left here, it's like no, it's 12 degrees this way,
Right.
like knowing it'll be 35 degrees later. But I love that. I love that as a message to our audience of take care of yourself. Make sure you're checking in with yourself. Make sure you're reflecting, and however that works for you, because everyone's different. Um, but really know what you're feeling, and know how something makes you feel, and that's important. Like pay attention to those things.
Right.
Um, yeah, I think that's great. I think that's great to end on. Of check in with yourself. Take care of yourself.
And check that subscribe button.
Yeah, yeah. All those things that you're supposed to talk about, of the subscribe button, and hit that thumbs up. But
Make a
yeah.
comment below.
Yeah, comment below. Let us know what you think. But yeah, no, I think, thank you for being a part of this conversation with us. And yeah.
We're excited to see where this goes.
Yeah.
Next episode I'll
Next
interview
episode
you.
it'll be my turn. Yeah.
I'm glad you went first. Now I have an idea.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I love that. Take care of yourself.
Till next time.
Till next time.
Click subscribe. Follow.
All the things. Do all the things.
Check out our website. Donate.
Oh god.